Dragon Ball Super manga chapter number 32 is now officially in the history books, as today we're going to be diving in depth and reviewing the English translation for the latest Dragon Ball Super manga chapter via Viz Media, as we reach the conclusion of the recruitment process and further understanding the events prior to our characters heading off into the world of Void, in which showcases a very different portrayal of what the recruitment process was like following the events of the anime compared to the manga. And again, if you guys are new to this channel and enjoy the content that I provide, be sure to go on ahead and punch that subscribe button with all notifications enabled to be notified whenever a brand new video is posted onto this channel, alongside following me on these social media platforms to be up to date with all the latest in Dragon Ball news, hashtag Dragon Ball Squad, as we kick off Dragon Ball Super manga chapter number 32 with Cabba having to be on planet Sadala and reminiscing on Champa having to speak to him about doing everything Cabba needs to do in his power to gather up the best fighters he could on the Universe 6 team, as Cabba goes on to state, even though Lord Champa ordered me to, I'm not exactly happy to be here, as Champa goes on to state, listen well Cabba, do whatever it needs to in order to gather the best fighters, good guys, bad guys, it doesn't matter. And as Cabba is walking, we get to see an armored car of Saiyans just speed right by, and Cabba goes on to state, is that a vehicle of ours? And we see these Saiyans sitting down, and we see how they're driving right past Caulifla's turf. Now on this planet, it looks like Caulifla actually owns a piece of land that's hers, and as they're driving, one of the Saiyans goes on to state, are you scared? She's nothing, I mean, we're soldiers in Sadala's army, as the second soldier goes on to state, but we don't even bother her because the army couldn't handle her, right? And as they're driving off, all of a sudden we see how a foot comes stomping on down and halting their vehicle, as of course the foot belonged to none other than Caulifla herself, as she goes on to state, stop, if you are going to go through here, you're gonna have to hand over everything. And the soldiers are beginning to panic, they're saying, it's Caulifla, I told you, damn it, which interestingly enough, in the anime portrayal, we didn't really see Caulifla own any sort of piece of land, but instead she was in this warehouse, and she goes on to tell one of her henchmen, who in fact out of the three, one of them is actually Kale, to begin to unload everything as they begin to take all the supplies from the vehicle and basically stealing it for their own good, as one of the Saiyans goes on to state, don't even think about it, we worked hard to get this stuff, while the other goes on to state, don't even bother, it's no use getting up against her, she's too much, as Caulifla goes on to state, what? You want to fight me, old man? And that's when the Saiyan begins to rush in Caulifla's direction and stating, don't underestimate a Sadala army member, the mightiest army in the entire universe. And as he pretty much rushes towards Caulifla's direction, she handles him with complete ease and grabbing one of his punches and flipping him into the side of a building. So Caulifla wasn't concerned in the least, as she goes on to state, don't try too hard, old man, or you'll hurt yourself, as then he goes on to state, damn it. And as Caulifla's looking down at the supplies, she's saying, oh, it's mostly food, lucky us. And look, they have some jewels, as the exact Saiyan she just ended up throwing on the side of a building decides to pull out a gun and saying, I won't let you take them. And the first person to notice this is Kale, as the Saiyan draws his gun and immediately noticing that the gun has vanished from his hand, and he's looking around and saying, what? Wait, what? It's gone? And Caulifla not even noticing herself what Kale had just done, Kale had managed to swoop on in and not only take this Saiyan's gun, but crush it right before his very eyes without Caulifla even understanding as to what happened. So the portrayal for Kale in the anime compared to the manga is much different, because in the anime, Kale was scared, Kale was shy and timid, but here, Kale just seems to be more of a quiet-like monster, because immediately, without even Caulifla noticing, she was able to do something in preventing Caulifla from getting hurt potentially by this Saiyan and his weapon. As we later get to see how Caulifla is relaxing in her warehouse, and we get to see how everyone's discussing things, until all of a sudden, Cabba comes knocking on in, and as soon as Cabba walks in, he immediately shoots one of the weapons out of one of her henchmen's hand and preventing them from attacking Cabba, as Cabba walks on in and saying, you must be Caulifla, as Caulifla says, and what if I am? Who the hell are you? And that's when we cut all the way back to Universe 7, as we get to see the recruitment process for the Universe 7 team, as Shin goes on to say, I wonder if the other universes have already chosen their fighters. As Whis goes on to state, who knows, we have a very short time limit, I assume every other universe is desperately scrambling to gather their fighters too. And Bulma overhears this by walking by and saying, everyone's sleeping now, are you guys gonna be staying up? As Whis goes on to state, please don't worry about me, I have no need for sleep. As Shin goes on to say, I will stay up for a little while longer until I go to sleep as well. So this pretty much much confirms two things as prior to seeing Caulifla and Cabba, which of course is fact number 1, the name of the king of planet Sadala is in fact King Sadala, similar to King Vegeta of the homeworld planet Vegeta. And fact number 2, Whis requires no sleep, unlike Shin and of course many of the other mortals. It looks like Whis does not require or need any sleep in order to be functional. As Shin goes on to state, I believe this recruiting period will be the most critical factor for whoever's going to win. I can't even imagine what kind of warriors are going to show up. And then as we go back to Universe 6, all of a sudden we see Cabba in base form pretty much getting pimp slapped by Caulifla. As Caulifla goes on to state, who do you think you are telling me what to do? Why do I need to fight in a stupid tournament to begin with, huh? And we see Cabba slowly get up and he's saying, because if we don't win, the entire universe will be destroyed. And Caulifla not understanding this, very similar to the anime, and saying, as if I care. I mean, you want me to join? You're gonna have to make me, though I've yet to meet a single Saiyan who can defeat me. In which further entices Cabba in saying, alright, well then, and before you know it, Cabba transforms into a Super Saiyan, and everyone there seems to be confused as to what Cabba had done because of the fact that nobody there has ever seen what a Super Saiyan actually is, and Cabba being one of the first ones to achieve this before Caulifla's very eyes, she seems to be very engaged, and as Cabba just quickly moves behind her, she goes on to state, blonde hair, what the heck is even going on? And as she goes to back fist Cabba, he blocks her off and saying, it's called Super Saiyan. As far as I know, all of the Saiyans in Universe 7 can do this. And Caulifla's confused and saying, wait, what? Universe 7? What the heck are you talking about? And at that moment, she begins to engage with Cabba as base form Caulifla fights Super Saiyan Cabba. And despite what Caulifla does, everything she attempts to do against Cabba, Cabba avoids in beating her down. So Caulifla at this stage in the game doesn't really have any chance at surviving against a Super Saiyan Cabba. And Super Saiyan Cabba looks a bit beefier than how we've seen in the anime, which I truly do enjoy, but Cabba has the upper hand in beating down Caulifla. He rushes towards her direction, and just momentarily, right before he punches her in the face, he stops. And just as he stops, he seems to be holding something in his hand, as Caulifla goes on to state, wait, when did you, as Cabba replies by saying, this belongs to the Sadala army. You're going to return this to us. And even Kale, she seems to say sis, and Caulifla's beat up, she's saying, wait. So there's Saiyans in this Universe 7 place, and they can all turn blonde just like you? As Cabba goes on to state, yes. However, the Saiyans in that universe have already also evolved even further beyond this. As Caulifla goes on to state, wait, so there are that many Saiyans stronger than even me? As Cabba goes on to state, I'm sure someone as talented as you, Caulifla, can master this form easily. Trust me on this. As Cabba goes on to state, if you fight with us, I will teach you how to transform. Deal? As Caulifla goes on to state, you, what's your name? As they formally introduce themselves, as Caulifla goes on to state, guys, there's a can of juice in the cargo we took earlier, give him one. And Cabba, very interestingly enough, refuses and saying, I don't want stolen items. I mean, I may have some water instead, as Caulifla goes on to state, okay, count me in for that tournament. So tell me how to become that Super Saiyan thingy again, which is much different than how we've seen in the anime portrayal, as Caulifla orders everyone to give him water, and we saw all of a sudden how Kale approaches and saying, here you go, and she hands over the exact pendant that Cabba was holding and saying, what? And as Kale is handing that back over to Caulifla, she goes on to state, wait, how do you have that? I mean, I don't want to give it back to Cabba, as we have our first glimpse as to how much of a beast Kale is going to be, because not even Super Saiyan Cabba was able to register or even comprehend as to how Kale had managed to get that out of his hand, because she just speed blitzed him so quick that he wasn't even able to understand how she had it in the first place. As we go back to Universe 7, and the first thing we see is Beerus waking up and saying, I'm not refreshed at all, sleeping at night doesn't shut me up at all. what's the status? Are there any new faces around here? And he looks at Krillin and he goes, oh, you're here too, Korin? And Krillin turns around and saying it's Kuririn. And that's when Krillin goes on to state, I heard the plans to upgrade this house with the prize money. And Vegeta's there with everybody and he's like, what prize money? So Krillin doesn't seem to understand. He doesn't seem to pretty much catch on the idea that Goku lied to him about everything. And we get to see how 1 hour later, as seen with Mr. Briefs and Trunks outside with Bra, Goku comes in and saying, sorry man, I passed out after I ate too much food yesterday at Tenshinhan's, but at least I got him to join us. So everyone seems to be very upset at Goku after he showed up an hour later, because Krillin even goes on to state, Goku, you lied to me. And that's when Goku's like, what? And that's when Krillin goes off on Goku by saying, you said you would give us 10 million Zenny for winning. And that's when Goku goes on to state, well, I mean, surprise, surprise. And that's when Bulma goes on to state, Kuririn and 18 say they won't participate anymore. And Goku's like, wait, I mean, I'll pay you. I have tons of cash from Hercule. And that's when even Vegeta goes on to state, doesn't Chi-Chi have control over that money? With Goku having to say, yeah, you're right. And even Krillin's mad and saying, that's not what I mean. To bribe me with money, you're the worst, Goku. And Goku's apologizing, and Kuririn even goes on to state, you know what gets me off the most? You keep it a secret that our universe is gonna get destroyed if we lose. And Goku has nothing to say, as once again Kuririn chews him out some more and saying, why did you hide that from me? Were you afraid of me rejecting you? I'm scared, therefore I'm not going. And here I thought you were gonna say something else. And Goku having to say, I mean, aren't you scared? And Krillin's really mad, and Goku's begging him to forgive him. And that's when Krillin finally makes up his mind and saying, fine, I'll go, but just so you know, I'm sure 18 will refuse if you don't pay her, which you're going to have to pay her. And that's when Goku turns around and Bulma says, I'll pay both 18 and the pervy old man, which Goku is very excited because now Bulma is left on, you know, paying everybody else for Goku's mistakes. So going back to Shin goes on to state, everyone, we finally have 9 members. We need 1 more now, and we've got less than a day to figure out who it is. And Beerus is drinking something as he goes on to state the universe is huge, yet everybody you choose is from a little booger-like planet like Earth. I mean, this is all your guys' fault, man, for destroying Frieza and his army. And that's when, notably enough, everyone begins to talk about Frieza's army, as Whis goes on to state, shortly before we had a tournament with Universe 6, the remnants of Frieza's army used the Dragon Balls to resurrect him. He then led thousands of his troops in an attack on Earth, and with that have been completely obliterated, in which he goes on to state, after the army was defeated, Frieza transformed into Golden Frieza, but Goku and Vegeta killed him using Super Saiyan Blue. And as Whis was talking about this, Goku all of a sudden was saying to himself he was killed. Wait a minute, I see him, Frieza! And everyone's like, wait, what are you talking about? And Goku's saying to himself, wait, if he's dead, then we should just bring him back from the other side. Yes, we should just bring Frieza back. And everyone seems to be super shocked, especially Vegeta, in saying, what? What's wrong with you? As Kuririn even goes on to state, are you suggesting that we use the Dragon Balls to bring him back to life once more so he could join us? As Bulma even says, do you realize we don't have time to collect them first off? As Goku goes on to state, no, I don't plan on using the Dragon Balls. I'll just ask Baba to revive him for 24 hours. Just like when she revived me and Vegeta. And that's when Krillin's like, why? I mean, I can see that working, but Shin is like, no way. The whole plan is ridiculous. You seriously believe that Frieza will even listen to you out of all people? As Goku goes on to say, well, I'm sure he wouldn't want the universe to disappear. I mean, he would disappear with it, so he has no other option. As Bulma goes on to state, I'm pretty sure he'll just try to kill us again. And Vegeta's like, you're always stupidly confident about things, but this time things are different. Why are you so desperate to go this far? I mean, we could still win this tournament without a jerk like him, right? As Goku, notably enough, goes on to state, to tell you the truth, I had a chance to fight a guy from Universe 11, and I lost. And everyone is shocked, including Beerus, saying, what? I mean, what? And everyone's like, wait a minute, how? As Vegeta goes on to state, you weren't using your full strength, were you? As Goku goes on to state, not really, but it looks like there's someone even stronger than the guy I lost to in his universe. As Beerus even goes on once again to state, what? And Goku goes on to make the claim and saying, Whis, let me ask you, are there people stronger than us in the other universes? And Whis, very interestingly enough, says, well, it's not really my business to get involved, but even if the gods of destruction and the Lord of Lords don't really know of every warrior in their universe, there could be some warriors, some participating warriors that none of us have ever seen before. As we go back to Universe 6 and we get to see Cabba and Caulifla on this spaceship, they're traveling around and saying, oh my goodness, the Super Saiyan thing was a lot easier than I thought. So this was during the time of them actually achieving that, as Caulifla even goes on to state, anyways, why did you ask her to come alongside with us too, talking about Kale? As Cabba goes on to state, we need as many fighters as possible. As Caulifla goes on to state, Kale is indeed promising, but she has a long way to go, and she keeps apologizing and saying I'm sorry, in which of course Caulifla ensures that she will do her best. As we go back to Universe 7, and everyone seems to be up in a shamble as to what to do, as Krillin even goes on to state, Frieza, maybe we do need him. And Goku's like, see, don't worry guys, if he goes berserk, me and Vegeta will take care of him. And that's when Vegeta goes on to say, I mean, do whatever you want, I don't care. And Beerus is eating, and Beerus doesn't seem to even care, and saying, who would have thought we'd stoop this low in using dead people? As Whis goes on to state and telling Beerus, leave it to Goku to come up with something like this. I mean, perhaps his unique way of thinking is the strongest weapon we have. And it looks like Beerus is eating chips and saying, you give him too much credit in doing that, man. So he's eating some chips, he's not really focused too much as to what's happening, but we get to see a flashback of the moment when Frieza was about to die, and we see his hands on the ground. He's beginning to look up, and the first thing he sees is Vegeta's armor, and then Vegeta's face, and then Vegeta's hand sticking out in front of him and saying, this time, this is the end. Don't ever come back to life ever again. And we see Goku in the distance as he comes swooping in and saying, Frieza! And then just as we all remember in Resurrection of F, we see Goku firing off the Kamehameha directly in Frieza's face, as Frieza wakes up and saying, Gah! I mean, oh, it's just me in hell again. So he's actually in hell. We see all of these teddy bears and all of these rabbits all around him, and he looks in front of him and he sees feet, and he's saying, wait a minute, am I dreaming? And it's Goku. And we get to see how one of the hell attendees is saying, well, I'll wait for you right here to come back if you're ready. And Goku's saying, no, it's no need. What's up, Frieza? I came here because I have some business to handle with you. As he's looking around and saying, though I thought hell would be a lot scarier, it looks like a lot of fun. As Frieza goes on to state, for me, nothing is more hellish than this. What are you up to? As Goku goes on to state, I can only give you 24 hours, but would you want to get out of this place? And Frieza's like, what do you want? I mean, what are you talking about 24 hours? Like, what is this all about? As the next day we get to see all of the warriors gathered together, as this is the actual day of them having to leave. We see Vegeta putting his armor on, everyone seems to be outside, and as Vegeta walks out, he's saying, are we all here? And we get to see Android 17, 18, Kuririn, Master Roshi, Ten Shinhan, Piccolo, Vegeta present, and Gohan. And once again, more notably, Gohan is rocking Piccolo's gi. He's rocking the exact same gi that he was wearing when fighting Perfect Cell, which again I pointed out in my spoiler video, which I found to be very interesting and very awesome, because this separates Gohan from Goku, I think, as we get to see how Master Roshi even says, wow, I never thought the two of us would actually be dragged into something like this, as Gohan goes on to state, it'll be nice to work with you again, Vegeta. As Vegeta goes on to say, hey Gohan, I hardly recognized you there, you look ready to go. As Gohan says, thanks to Piccolo, I am. And that's when even Vegeta looks on over and saying, you too, 17, it's been a long time. I heard you've been working hard. As 17 goes on to state, I am protecting an island in the south. I left everything to your son today. Are you sure he can handle it? And Vegeta goes on to state, you saw how strong my son is, right? Trunks may be a kid, but he is far too good. As Piccolo goes on to state, Goku's nowhere to be found. Even with Goku, there's only 9 of us left. Where are they? So nobody really knows where Goku is. And then finally, Goku comes back with Frieza. And the first thing you can tell is that Goku and Frieza are beat up very, very badly. Unlike the anime, when they first came about after fighting the assassins, they were a tad bit damaged, but they seem to be in such shambles. Goku's gi is torn, he's bloody, he's bruised, Frieza has lumps all over his head, and Goku shows up and saying, "Hey guys, sorry to keep you waiting," and everyone seems to be so shocked, everyone's surprised that not only are they beat up, but Frieza's also there, and everyone's like, "Frieza," and Vegeta's laughing and saying, "Well, you finally got him to come," and Frieza goes on to state, well, there are a lot of familiar faces here, huh? And that's when Bulma even asks, "Wait a minute, why are you guys both beat up?" And that's when Goku goes on to state, "Well, peacefully, a negotiation didn't really work out the way I wanted to, so it is what it is," as Beerus goes on to state, "Geez, and you thought talking to him would work, you idiot? Wow," as Piccolo hands over them some senzu beans as Frieza and Goku take them, as Vegeta goes on to state, "Ha! That angel ring looks good on you, Frieza." And as Frieza's recovering, he goes on to state, "Before the universe is destroyed, I wouldn't mind kicking your butt out of it first," as Vegeta pretty much welcomes this and saying, "Just try." And that's when Goku goes on to state, "You never know, Vegeta, this guy has been hanging in a tree this whole time, but he's somehow gotten stronger." And that's when Frieza goes on to state, "I had a lot of time for image training. I went through thousands of simulations in my head on how to slaughter you all," as Beerus comes on in and saying, "Frieza, if you even think about trying that, I will stop you myself." As Frieza goes on to state, "Ho, I'm just joking, Lord Beerus," and everyone's trying to gather up together before they're actually late on getting to the world of Void, as Whis goes on to tell Goku, "By the way, Goku, how did you manage to convince him to come?" And Frieza hears this by saying, "My complete resurrection, that's what we agreed on." And everyone is shocked and saying, "What? Complete resurrection?" And Frieza goes on to state, "If our universe survives in the end, he will use the Dragon Balls to wish for my complete resurrection. That's what the promise was. Right, Goku?" As Goku goes on to state, "Yeah, you're right. I'll bring you back to life." And then as this is happening, Vegeta's like, "You jerk, you didn't even talk to us about it first." And that's when even Goku's like, "Well, let's just put that aside from now. I mean, we have to get over there as quickly as possible." So Whis goes on to state, "Well then, folks, the time for talk is over. Everyone gather around," and everyone is kind of like clenching onto their hands. And even Goku's like, "Come on, Frieza, hurry up." And Frieza's like, "Holding hands with you? You gotta be kidding me, right?" And that's when Beerus is very infuriated and saying, "Do as he says or I will destroy you along with your soul. That way you can never come back again." And Frieza gets punked and saying, "Fine, fine." And Beerus, once again before they leave, goes on to state, "Listen everyone, this is a battle royale. It's all about teamwork. Get along for once. It is your life. Your life is on the line. Always work as a team. Let the enemies fight each other while you conserve your strength and stamina. When enemies approach, you get rid of them by working together. Understood?" Which is something we haven't seen in the anime, because in the anime Beerus was different, but as they go off and they leave, we get to see the final shots of Vegeta looking back and seeing Bulma and his kid as they finally go off into the world of Void. So this manga chapter I think was way more interesting than the previous one, because number one, we got to see off-screen training from both Piccolo and Gohan, which I really did not enjoy because I wanted to see what kind of training Gohan received in the manga as compared to the anime, because according to what we saw in the manga, it looks like Goku was asleep, so he was not able to fight Gohan as we saw in the anime, but instead it was solely Piccolo that put Gohan back into shape and switching his gi and pretty much teaching him the ways of the warriorhood, unlike what we saw in the anime with Goku having to fight Gohan. And speaking of off-screen training, we get to see Goku and Frieza actually engaging in hell for the first time, unlike to what we saw in the anime when they knocked each other out with one punch after the assassins pretty much came after their lives. So what I really enjoyed about this manga chapter was seeing Kale, and the reason for that was because she wasn't whiny, she wasn't apologetic, she wasn't scared or timid. She was actually very, very cunning, I would say, or a bit devious and a bit kind of mysterious in her actions and having to collect the pendants from not only Cabba, but you know, even breaking the gun from the Saiyan warrior. And I cannot wait for the upcoming manga chapter, chapter number 33, because that manga chapter next month is going to reveal the fight between, you know, the beginning of the Tournament of Power between all the universes, and pretty much getting to the world of Void and seeing if the gods are going to be constructing the ring and everything in between. So post your comments down below, guys. I mean, there were lots of things that were different about this manga chapter. You know, hearing the king's name, seeing the way Cabba was teaching the girl Super Saiyan, and never getting a chance to seeing Super Saiyan 1 or 2 Caulifla or even Berserker Kale, and saving that for the manga. But I think regardless of that, it definitely displayed one of many things. Number one, Cabba's tenacity and all of his, you know, patience in recruiting Caulifla, and also seeing Goku use his mind in trying to persuade Frieza in joining the team, even with his full resurrection intact. So post your comments down below, guys. Thank you all so much for watching. If you guys are stoked and ready for more Dragon Ball, go on ahead and slap a like down below, guys. If you guys are new, hit that subscribe button, guys. Tune back in for more, and I'll be seeing you all down in the comment section, guys. Have a great day. Peace.